6:35 a.m. Typical morning. I'm sitting on the couch with my computer and bull terrier by my side, reading the morning online papers. Right in the middle of a sentence, I lost everything. My sense of being, of where I was, who I was, no thoughts in my mind, just cold, empty nothingness. I don't know how long I was in that state, a few seconds, a few minutes, I don't know. I came back to reality for 20 seconds or so, then back into emptiness. Slowly my consciousness returned. Not knowing what had just happened, I wrote it off as being some sort of physical anomaly, something that one goes through as we drift through middle age. I felt fine except for a lingering feeling of anxiousness and uneasiness. For some reason I spent most of the day pacing, not being able to relax or be at ease. It was a nice spring day, so I got out my motorcycle for the first ride of the year. Luckily, it started without too much effort, and I was off to the golf course to hit some balls on the driving range. Here I was driving down the road on my bike, going to golf on a nice day, things that I love to do. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? I should be feeling great, but there is this nagging feeling of nervousness that is haunting me. I still have absolutely no idea why I'm feeling this way. It's now after 9 o'clock in the evening. Becky and I are getting ready for bed. The doorbell rings. I think it's strange that at this hour someone's at our door, but I go answer the door. When I open it, there is one sight that parents of loved ones serving in wartime think of occasionally, but pray they never see. 2 Army officers in their dress uniforms with the most forlorn looks on their faces. I step back from the door saying nothing but no, no. Okay, my first thoughts were that maybe he'd been badly injured and is still alive, knowing they don't send officers to your door to inform you of that. Becky calls out from the bedroom, "Who's there?" All I could say was, "Something's happened to Dan. Something's happened to Dan." I apologized to the officers for letting them stand there and invite them inside. Becky comes out of the living room and the officers introduce themselves. We sit down on the couch. Becky, almost in tears, repeats Dan's name over and over. Then came the words that no military parent ever wants to hear. "We regret to inform you that your son, Sgt Daniel J. Brown, was killed in action on March 24, 2012, in Afghanistan. A father's love for his son is unique, and my love for Dan was as great as any. But no father can truly understand the love and relationship that a mother has with her son. Her cries of pain, hurt, and anguish are something that I as a father can only feebly try to comprehend, and will forever be burned in my memory." At some point later on, I'm not sure when, I came to realize what had happened to me at 6:35 in the morning. That is the exact time the IED exploded. That's when my son died. I don't know how or why I felt my son's death. I just feel my love for him and the love for me he had for me was such a strong bond that we shared. Even though we were separated by thousands of miles, I still felt the final moments of his life. 1st Squadron's 3rd Platoon D Company, 2nd Battalion, 8th Infantry, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 4th Infantry Division, deployed at Command Outpost Kuhak, just north of Kandahar, Afghanistan, was on the evening of March 24, 2012, assigned to set up a traffic control point in conjunction with the Afghan police and military. Before the checkpoint was established, the ALP commander reported finding an IED about 800 meters west of their position. He had pictures of the IED on his cell phone and showed them to the Army team. 3rd Platoon was assigned to check out the possible IED. The platoons normally rotate, which sergeant leads the fire team, and this was Sergeant G's turn to lead the patrol. But Sergeant Brown wouldn't let him go. An argument ensued to the point where Sergeant Brown was swearing at Sergeant G. Just a few months ago, a Marine corporal received the Congressional Medal of Honor from the President for throwing himself on a grenade to save the life of a fellow Marine next to him. What Sergeant Brown did by insisting that he lead the platoon that night was no less of a heroic act. He put himself in harm's way to protect others in his unit. Sergeant Brown had less than 2 weeks before he would have left Kuhak and started on his way back home. There waiting were his wife Jordan and 3-month-old twin girls Maddie and Marley, who he had yet to hold in his arms. Sergeant Brown, Sergeant H, 2 specialists, the platoon medic Doc O, and the interpreter traveled the 800 yards to the reported area. After reaching the vicinity of the IED, Sergeant Brown ordered the 2 specialists to post security at a curve in the road some distance from the IED. He then ordered Specialist O, Doc, to get behind a wall. He told him, "Stay down, we have to keep you safe in case there's any hostile action and we need a medic." Those were the last words he spoke to the doc. By keeping these 3 soldiers back away from the IED, he also saved their lives. Sergeant Brown, Sergeant H, and an interpreter then proceeded to check the area around the IED for possible secondary IEDs. At that point, 5 of the ANA and ALP moved up to the IED and were posing for pictures with it. Sergeant Brown yelled for them to get back away from it, but to no avail. Then Sergeant Brown and the interpreter proceeded to the IED in an attempt to move them back away from it. Sergeant H tried reaching the Kuhawk observation post on his radio. He keyed his mic. Sergeant H opened his eyes. All he sees are stars, tree limbs, and feels pain in his neck and left leg. He gets up, dust fills the air, and looks to where the IED was and sees nothing. No one. He yells, "Medic!" Doc O runs towards the blast site. He comes to the body of an Afghan soldier. All of his clothes have been blown off. He was dead. He then goes to Sergeant H and asks if he is injured. He replies, "Don't worry about me. We have to look for Sergeant Brown." They hear some movement in a collapsed wall and see another Afghan in the rubble. He is severely injured. The doc then proceeds to Doc O starts to attend to the injured Afghan in a valiant effort to save his life. Doc tells Sergeant H that he has things under control and go look for more wounded. There is a small irrigation canal next to the blast site. Sergeant H jumps in looking for anyone. The water is cold, swift, and after a few moments of searching, he exits the water. He yells, "Sergeant Brown, if you can hear me, give me a sign or something." No reply. He crosses a small bridge over the canal and sees 2 more Afghan casualties. Again, he calls Sergeant Brown's name. Still no reply. Back at Cop Kuhawk, the word of the attack and Sergeant Brown's missing body swept through the camp. More personnel were sent to the blast site. Some were ordered to stay at the Cop. Some of those who knew Sergeant Brown felt such a need to help their friend, they disregarded those orders and went to help their fellow brother in arms. Sergeant H continues searching. He climbs over 2 small walls and in a small field, some 50 yards from the blast, in a foxhole, he finds Sergeant Brown's body. From the condition of the body, he knew that he was killed in action. But he took off his gloves and checked for a pulse anyway. He sat next to his fallen comrade, holding him, not leaving his side. Sergeant G finds them later and yells out, "I found Sergeant Brown." He helps Sergeant H out of the hole and checks his wounds and asks, "What the hell happened?" All he could answer was, "It's all my fault. It's all my fault." Medevac helicopters are starting to arrive. The doc has ready 2 Afghans that were still alive for transport. Unfortunately, one died in the landing zone and the other was loaded onto the chopper, and he died on the way to the hospital. Sergeant H was put on the next chopper and transported. A body bag was brought to Sergeant Brown and his body placed in it. A sea of soldiers surrounded his body, all trying to be part of moving him to the chopper, even if they could only have a hand touching him. It was their last chance to be close to their friend. He was placed on the helicopter to start his journey home. 3rd Platoon gathered up all the equipment and belongings they could find and went back to Cop Kuhawk. Back in the relative safety of the Cop, they went to their huts. Other members of the company came to console them. Doc O laid down on his cot, the events of the day and what had happened just flowing through his mind. He began to cry. Daco received the Army Commendation Medal for combat and Combat Medal Badge for his efforts to save the lives of the Afghan soldiers. Sergeant H's wounds were not life-threatening and he recovered. The interpreter's body was found later and he was also killed. 5 Afghan soldiers in all were killed that night.